I never planned on staying. I only meant to drop off the files, say thank you, and leave. But the moment she opened the door, I forgot every reason I had for not being there. She stood in the soft glow of the hallway light, barefoot, hair tied loosely as if she had given up trying to tame it hours ago. There was a calmness in her eyes, the kind that makes you quiet without asking. I didn't know what to call it back then, only that being near her slowed something in me that had been running my whole life. "Come in," she said. Her voice was gentle, like she was afraid to disturb something we both couldn't see. The room behind her was dim, only the lamp in the corner casting warm amber shadows across the furniture. It wasn't the room that made my pulse jump, it was how she leaned slightly against the doorframe, like she'd been standing there longer than she should have, debating whether or not to open it at all. "I didn't think you'd actually come tonight," she added, turning away before I could answer. Her shoulder brushed mine as I stepped past her. That small, accidental touch hit harder than it should have. She crossed the living room, moving with the unhurried grace of someone who no longer tries to impress anyone. Nothing about her was loud. Yet every part of me was pulled toward her, like gravity remembered her before I did. "I had the files you needed," I said, setting them on the table. My voice sounded too casual. Too practiced. I didn't come here just because of files, and we both knew it. She stood by the window, arms folded, not defensive, just containing something. For a few moments neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It felt aware. Finally, she looked at me. Really looked. "You're quiet tonight," she said. "So are you." She almost smiled but stopped halfway, as if smiling would make something real she wasn't ready to face. Her gaze lowered to my hand resting on the edge of the table. Then it rose again, slower this time. I felt each inch of that glance like a touch. "You know this isn't right," she said softly. The words should have ended it. But she didn't step away. She didn't tell me to leave. She just watched me, waiting for my reaction, as though my answer might be the very thing she'd been trying not to want. My heartbeat was in my throat. "Then why does it feel so perfect?" She breathed in sharply, like I had pulled something from inside her without permission. The kind of breath you take when your body reacts before your mind can lie. Her eyes flicked to the door, as if considering escape, then back to me again. A war happening in silence. I stepped closer. Not touching her. Not saying anything else. I could hear the faint ticking of a clock in the kitchen. The whisper of air from the vent above us. Everything felt too still. Too intimate. Like the night itself had drawn a curtain around us. She raised her hand slightly, hesitating in the air between us, as though fighting the urge to reach for me. Her fingers trembled before she withdrew them. That trembling told me everything her words tried to deny. "I don't know what you think this is," she said quietly. "Neither do I," I answered. "That's what scares me." Her lips parted. Whether to argue or to confess I'll never know, because before she could speak, there was a knock at the door. She froze. Then she looked at me, eyes wide, not with fear. With something far more dangerous. Something that had finally been seen. She didn't move at first. Her hand hovered halfway to her chest, as if someone had reached through the door and pressed pause on her. Whoever was on the other side knocked again, lighter this time, almost hesitant. "It's probably just a neighbor," she murmured, but the words were too soft to be convincing. She stepped past me, and I caught the faintest trace of her scent, something warm, like sandalwood with a note of citrus. It lingered in the air when she opened the door just a crack. A woman's voice floated in. "Hey, just checking on you. You didn't answer your phone earlier." She spoke gently, politely, her tone perfectly composed. "I'm fine. Just working on something. I'll call you tomorrow." A pause. Then the neighbor's voice dropped, thick with concern. "You aren't alone, are you?" Her fingers tightened on the doorframe. I watched the shift in her shoulders again, holding in something, tucking it into silence before it could be seen. "No," she said, calm. Controlled. "Good night." The door clicked shut. She stood with her back to me for several seconds longer than necessary. Only when she turned did I notice the smallest crack in her composure. Her breathing wasn't steady. "That was my sister," she explained. It felt more like an apology than information. "You don't owe me an explanation," I said. "I do." Her eyes rose to meet mine. "Because this, whatever it is, doesn't exist outside this room." She moved toward the table, arms folded again, though I could see she was holding herself in place, as if her body wanted the opposite. I nodded slowly. "Is that what you want?" Her silence was louder than a no. She looked at me then in a way that felt like a confession without words. And in that quiet, a truth formed, something neither of us had dared to articulate. Doors were closing behind us, and not just literal ones. "I haven't," she began, then stopped. She took a breath, turning away, fingers brushing lightly along the surface of the table as she walked. That touch held more vulnerability than speech. "I haven't let anyone in for a long time." She didn't face me when she said it. "People my age, they come with expectations. Plans. Baggage. I don't want to be someone's chapter 2. Especially not someone who's already halfway through their book." I stepped closer, slow enough that she could move away if she wanted. She didn't. "You think you're chapter 2? I asked. She laughed under her breath, one soft, broken note. "I think I'm epilogue material." Something tightened in my chest at that. Maybe it was sadness. Maybe anger at whoever made her believe that. I didn't touch her. But my hand rested on the table beside hers, close enough that just the heat between our skin felt like contact. She glanced at our hands, then at me. I saw it again, that tremor in her breath, the flicker of want she tried to suppress. "What if?" I said quietly. "I'm not looking for a beginning or an ending. Just this moment." Her eyes searched mine, slow, careful, like she was afraid to find what she was looking for. She didn't answer. But her hand didn't move away. And that silence, shared, trembling, alive, told me everything. The silence between us didn't fade, it thickened. She stood so still that I could hear the faint tremor in her breathing. Outside, the hallway light went dark, leaving only the lamp's glow caressing the contours of her face. "I should get you some water," she said suddenly, stepping away as if distance could undo what had just formed between us. I followed without thinking. In the kitchen, she reached for a glass. Her hand hesitated in midair, then the faint buzz of a phone broke the air like a crack in glass. She froze. The phone on the counter lit up with a name I didn't recognize. She didn't touch it. Didn't silence it. Just stared until it stopped. Only then did she speak, her voice quiet. "That's a friend." The pause before "friend" was long enough to be its own sentence. "A friend who calls late at night?" I asked gently. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned on the faucet. Water hit the glass with a rush that sounded too loud in the small kitchen. "I don't want you thinking," she began, then stopped. The rhythm of her words died out. She set the glass down hard enough to make it thud. I stepped closer. She didn't move away this time. The counter was behind her, leaving nowhere to go. The lamp in the other room cast a golden outline along the edge of her shoulder, her collarbone. Her eyes lifted to mine, slowly, like dragging herself somewhere she had promised she wouldn't return. "This isn't right," she whispered. But her voice was softer than before. Less certain. I could see the war in her, responsibility warring with longing, logic colliding with something older, instinctive. I didn't touch her. Not yet. But the space between us felt like a held breath. "You keep saying that," I murmured. "Because it's true." "Then why aren't you stepping away?" Her lips parted. She didn't speak. Her chest rose in a shallow breath. The sound of footsteps in the hallway made her stiffen. Someone passed by outside. A door clicked. Voices murmured. We both fell silent, as if the slightest sound might give us away. But we didn't move apart. Her eyes flicked toward the closed door, then back to me. The tension in her body changed. It wasn't resistance anymore. It was anticipation. "You're too young to understand what happens next," she said quietly. "Then explain it to me." Her laugh was almost silent, a breath more than sound. "If I start explaining, I won't be able to stop." The distance between us was barely a breath now. My pulse beat in my throat. Her hand, resting on the counter behind her, curled inward, fingers brushing the side of my arm. Not quite a touch, just the ghost of one. "We can't," she said. "But you want to." She swallowed. The muscles in her throat shifted. The phone buzzed again. This time louder. Closer. Her breathing caught. Whatever she had been about to say vanished. Her gaze fell to my lips. Then the phone stopped. Everything else stopped too. We didn't kiss. But in that suspended moment, with our breaths mingling and neither of us blinking, the line between resisting and giving in disappeared, so thin it might as well have never existed at all. She didn't move. Neither did I. The echo of that last phone vibration still trembled in the air, as if the room itself hadn't taken another breath. Her eyes were lowered, then slowly, almost unwillingly, they rose to mine. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. "We haven't done anything," I replied. "Exactly." Her voice quivered. "And it already feels like too much." She stepped around me, but her movements were shaky. She reached the edge of the hallway, steadying herself against the wall as though her own body had betrayed her. "You think this is just about the age gap?" she said, not turning. "People will talk. They'll say I'm desperate. They'll say you're naive. That I'm using you. That you'll regret it." I walked toward her. Slowly. As if every step had consequences I couldn't see. "And what will you say?" I asked. She finally turned. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with something more unbearable. Restraint. "I'll say they're right." The words sliced through me. But I saw the truth beneath them, pulsing like a heartbeat in her silence. "You don't believe that?" "I have to." She stood straighter. "Because if I don't, I want you." Her voice broke on the word want. Just barely. But the fracture was enough to shatter everything we had been pretending to hold together. I closed the space between us, but not recklessly. Like stepping through the last inches of air that had ever kept us apart. She didn't step back. "Look at you," she murmured, her voice a trembling breath. "You don't know what this could cost." I reached up, slow, deliberate, and brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. She inhaled sharply. My fingers didn't leave immediately. They lingered, tracing the line where her jaw met her neck, feeling the soft shiver beneath her skin. "I'm standing here," I said softly, "asking you to let me choose." Her head tilted back slightly against the wall. Her eyes fluttered closed, not to retreat, but to stay present in every sensation. My hand lowered, hovering just above her hip. I didn't touch her yet. "You're shaking," I whispered. "So are you." Our breaths mingled, warm, uneven. The hallway light flickered, as though even the electricity strained to hold its pulse steady. Then, she placed her hand flat against my chest. Not pushing me away. Not pulling me closer. Just feeling. "I haven't been touched like this in years," she said, her voice breaking open. "Not where it mattered." Her fingers curled, gripping my shirt, anchoring herself. "I hate that you make me feel alive again. I hate it because I forgot what this felt like. And now I can't unfeel it." My heart was a drum against her palm. "Then don't," I breathed. Her eyes snapped open, filled with something raw, fear, longing, surrender. "I shouldn't want you," she whispered. "But you do." She didn't deny it. I leaned in. The world narrowed to the space between her lips and mine. 1 inch, half an inch, the warmth of her breath brushing against me like a silent confession. Our lips didn't meet. Not yet. Because just as that final barrier vanished, she whispered, almost inaudible, "If you kiss me, nothing will ever be the same again." And I didn't step back. "If you kiss me, nothing will ever be the same again." I didn't step back. But before either of us could close that last breath of space, the phone lit up again, this time not with a call, but with a message. The screen flashed once, bright against the dim room. She stiffened. The name was different this time. One I did recognize. It was my mother. 3 words. Are you with her? For a second, the world didn't move. Her eyes locked on the screen, then on me. Not shocked, worse. Knowing. As if this was the very thing she'd feared stepping into, and it had already begun unraveling without a single kiss. How does she know? I whispered. She swallowed hard. It took her a moment to speak. Because I spoke to her last week. I stepped back as if I'd been hit. You what? She closed her eyes. She reached out to me. She said she was worried about you. About your choices. About me? The air thickened with something colder than guilt, betrayal. Not of me by her, but of reality itself intruding, uninvited, unstoppable. What did you tell her? My voice was too soft to be calm. The truth, she said. But even as she said it, I saw her flinch. The truth hadn't been simple. It had been emotional. Confessional. Vulnerable. She asked if I had feelings for you. She continued, voice unsteady. And? Her hand went to the back of her neck, fingers trembling. I didn't answer. That's not an answer, I pressed. She looked at me then, gaze piercing, hurting. It was. Silence is an answer. A beat of silence passed between us, fragile, dangerous. So you've been trying to protect me, I said slowly. Not from this, but from you. Her breath stuttered. I knew, she whispered, that if we crossed that line, I wouldn't be able to pretend. Everyone will know. Your mother will know. And once people start looking at us, they'll see everything. My pulse hammered in my ears. Not from fear. From clarity. I stepped forward again. She stepped back on instinct, but only once. Her shoulders hit the wall. I lowered my head slightly, my voice quiet, close to her ear. You didn't deny it. She tried to steady herself, but her hand found my arm instead, fingers curling unconsciously. You're trembling, I murmured. I'm terrified, she breathed. You're not terrified of me. No. Her eyes met mine. I'm terrified of wanting you this much. The screen lit up again. Another message. My mother. He needs to understand what she's doing. The words burned between us. Her eyes closed, anguish in every line of her face. I can't let them paint me as someone who ruins you, she whispered. My hand rose slowly, gently, to her cheek. She didn't move away. Her skin warmed beneath my touch, pulse rapid beneath my fingertips. You're not ruining me, I said. You're the only thing that's ever made sense. Her breath caught. And this time, she didn't deny it. Her pulse thrummed beneath my fingertips, quick and unguarded. She didn't pull away. She didn't blink. It was as though every lie, every hesitation, had been stripped away until nothing remained but this, us, standing on the edge of a moment that would define everything that came after. I need you to understand, she whispered. This isn't just a choice for tonight. If I let this happen, I won't be able to stop wanting it. The confession trembled in the air. It wasn't a warning, it was surrender. I stepped closer. She drew in a slow breath, her shoulders rising, chest brushing mine with the slightest movement. My hand moved from her cheek to the curve of her jawline, thumb resting softly at the corner of her lip. Her eyes flickered closed. Not to hide, but to feel. You think I don't already know that? I murmured. The space between us narrowed. Every heartbeat that passed felt like gravity pulling stronger. I've spent years learning how to be alone, she continued, voice unsteady. Convincing myself that wanting something too much only guarantees losing it. I leaned in, not closing the gap, just breathing the same air. So this is you trying not to want me, or trying not to lose me? Her breath caught. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Because her body answered for her. Her hand rose, almost unconsciously, fingertips grazing my chest. Light. Testing. Then resting, firmly, as if claiming where she stood. I don't want to be another mistake you have to outgrow, she whispered. You won't be, I said, voice low. Certain. What if you're wrong? What if I've never been more right about anything? Silence. Not absence, but a shift. Her resistance softened, not into weakness, but into truth. Into a decision that had been waiting beneath fear all along. My forehead lowered until it gently touched hers. Her breath mingled with mine, slow, uneven, alive in a way that spoke more than any words could. I tried, she whispered, voice barely audible. I tried not to want this. And now? I asked. Her fingers curled gently into my shirt. Now I want nothing else. The world narrowed to a single breath, the one we were about to share. This wasn't impulse. This was inevitability. She lifted her face just a fraction. I tilted mine. Our lips hovered. Neither of us moved that last invisible inch, not because of doubt, but because of reverence. The moment itself demanded stillness, as if time bowed in acknowledgement. And then, she closed that final distance. Not with desperation, but with certainty. A gentle, trembling, deliberate kiss, like a truth long buried finally allowed to surface. My hand slid to the back of her neck, drawing her closer, every hesitation dissolving into the quiet certainty that this wasn't ruin. It was beginning. When she broke the kiss, her forehead rested against mine. Her breathing was unsteady, but her eyes were clear. It's done, she whispered. It's only starting, I answered. And for the first time, either of us looked away, either of us spoke at first. The quiet wasn't heavy anymore, it was soft. The kind of silence you grow into, not run from. She was still close, eyes steady on mine, as though searching for any flicker of regret. When she found none, her shoulders finally dropped, not in defeat, but in relief. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, she said quietly. I don't care what it looks like, I answered. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, but something deeper. A soft exhale left her body, as though she had been holding that breath for years and only now could release it. She moved to the sofa and sat down slowly, almost cautiously, like sitting beside me made everything real. I joined her. We didn't reach for each other immediately. We just sat there, side by side, the room gently lit, the world outside dim and distant. Then, without looking away, she slid her hand toward mine on the cushion. Not urgently. Not shyly. Just, openly. Our fingers brushed once. Then she intertwined them with mine. That single movement felt more intimate than any kiss. It wasn't about desire now, it was about choosing. Fully. Quietly. Without excuses. I spent so long convincing myself no one would choose me if they truly understood me, she said softly. And you. Her voice wavered. You looked right at every part one don't show the world, and didn't walk away. I never wanted the version of you the world sees, I said. Only the version sitting here right now. She exhaled again, longer this time. Her eyes glistened, not with sorrow, but with something unfamiliar, something she hadn't allowed herself in a long time. Peace. She leaned into me, resting her head against my shoulder. My arm moved around her naturally, like it had always belonged there. She melted gently into my side, still composed, still dignified, but no longer guarded. No more walls. Just warmth. For a long moment, we stayed like that. No words. Just the steady rhythm of breathing together. After a while, she said quietly, People will talk. Let them. They'll say this is wrong. Maybe, I answered, turning slightly so I could press a soft kiss to her forehead, slow, reverent. But nothing that feels dishonest could be wrong. Her breathing faltered at the touch, then steadied, matching mine. She closed her eyes. You're certain? I don't want perfect, I whispered. I want real. And this is real. Her fingers tightened around mine, grounding herself in the moment. When she spoke next, her voice was steady. Then stay. Not a command. An invitation. I nodded, my lips brushing the top of her hair as I answered. I already have. The lamp beside us flickered gently, casting a warm glow across her face as she finally turned fully into me, no longer resisting the gravity that had always been there. We didn't need to say anything else. The choice was made. And this time neither of us looked away.